Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we traipse through Monster Hunter Frontier, be aware that we're covering the monsters in release order, or at least as close to release order as online sources can guide me. So, Monster Hunter Frontier Season 1.0 got itself a 1.5 update, and in said update came subspecies for its two original creations. Yes sir, though we're not getting a wholly brand new species, we do have to detour before things like Espinas and take a look at our first monsters that never came to the West at all. We continue this journey with the brilliance, the posturing, the extravagant, the stunning subspecies of Hypnocatrice, a mate-attracting showman born to perform. You want to get a glimpse of how the craziest Monster Hunter title handled its monster variations? Well, my name is Connor, and this is Frontier Firsthand Bright Hypnocatrice. It is important to remember that Frontier is effectively a gigantic, out-of-control mod of Monster Hunter DOS, with some freedom to DNA in there as well. So one thing Frontier inherited from DOS was its seasonal mechanic. Essentially, different maps and monsters would have varying behaviors or availability depending on whether it was the hot season, the cold season, or the breeding season. Bright Hypnocatrice's Japanese and more literal name was Breeding Season Hypnocatrice. Bright was a nomenclature that came around a little while later. I'm not sure if it was an official romanization or a fan name. One way or the other, it's a lot less cumbersome than Breeding Season Hypnocatrice, and it's what we're going to be sticking with for the rest of the video. The point is, Bright Hypnoc was a monster designed around the season mechanic of DOS, which by this point in Frontier technically still exists, but has no function. He is meant to be your standard male Hypnocatrice during the mating season. His plumage changes to a brilliant concoction of pinks, reds, and violets with bright white and blue on the feather tips. The base color brown of his body feathers is also a few shades darker, which really lets the brilliant plumage shine. I think this guy looks great for his time, and I enjoy very much the idea of a subspecies being developed around that seasonal mechanic. Sure, it would kind of make it a mild inconvenience to grind parts from him, but sometimes inconveniences like that can help flesh out the world, they can be fun in a kind of immersion's sake, and they can make a fight feel a little bit more special. Anyway, all of that's pretty much irrelevant nowadays, and you can fight Bright Hypnocatrice whenever you want if you boot up the modern version of Frontier. But what is the experience of actually fighting the guy? Well, Frontier monsters come in a lot of form. A big chunk of the cast can be fought in low rank, high rank, Gao rank, which was the endgame before Frontier G came out, and then G rank. And then, the majority of Frontier's monsters have hardcore forms which boost their stats, alter their appearances, and give them new attacks. So I went ahead, fought a whole bunch of these to see what Bright Hypnocatrice would have been like throughout his whole career. To both my surprise and honestly kind of then eventual unsurprise afterwards, Bright Hypnocatrice in his regular form at any difficulty before G rank is a palette swap subspecies. Yeah, same exact move kit as your regular Hypnocatrice, albeit maybe a tad bit faster, but yeah, no new moves or statuses or a new map or anything like that. And I mean, well, yeah, that does kind of track. At this time, subspecies were mostly palette swaps that may come with some minor changes to attack patterns and hit zones. For the sake of research, and to track all my information, I did decide to go digging for some numerical comparisons between Hypnocatrice and Bright Hypnocatrice to see if there's any worthwhile differences under the hood before we get into the move changes of the more powerful versions of the fights. Honestly, might be doing a little bit more of this numerical diving in the future of this series as well. What I found is that Bright Hypnocatrice is the more resilient of the two when it comes to some elemental resistances and status buildup especially. Specifically, Bright Hypnocatrice gains more resistance to fire while being fairly susceptible to thunder damage. Meanwhile, the majority of his initial status resiliences are higher than that of the original Hypnocatrice, and his tolerances will then increase at a steeper rate. The only other big difference is that he spawns in a different location, that being within the Great Tree in Area 7. He will then flee to the top of the forest in Area 4 after that. For contrast, the base Hypnocatrice will spawn in the upper right part of the forest in Area 5 and will retreat to Area 6 afterwards, more towards the middle of the forest. Alright, so he is a hardier version of Hypnocatrice with slight behavioral differences, but can the stronger versions actually do anything interesting? Short answer is yes, G rank is going to make our guy here fairly distinct. But what about before that? Oh, for sure there too. His hardcore fight before G rank is going to start to set up some groundwork for where this monster is going to go, while also adding a somewhat brand new status to Frontier. I say somewhat because, well, it is still stun. But it's a new augmented stun that will force you to your knees and then automatically knock you down on your face for a moment before you can clear the debuff. It's effectively auto stun with an added second or two of not being able to move. It doesn't have an official name, but I've taken to calling it Super Stun. And how is Super Stun implemented? Well, for the earlier hardcore fights, it only makes one appearance. You know that dancing stomp combo that the base Hypnocatrice has in Frontier? Bright has an altered version. Here, the hit you're looking for is not the initial stomp down like it is with the first one. Instead, it's the end of these dancing animations you want to look out for. What Bright Hypnoc will do is signal the attack by rearing up, spreading his wings, stepping twice, and then hopping slightly before bounding forwards. He will land, hop again, and on that second stomp, he will let out a radial blast of pink stun-inducing gas. He will then repeat this 2 more times before ending the barrage with a victorious shriek. It's a very similar idea to the dance of the base Hypnoc, but with animation changes that honestly make the attack a whole lot simpler to react to and understand. You just need to watch for the blast, rather than guess which flurry of tap dancing stomps you need to block. I like that attack on the base Hypnocatrice for how odd it is, but I ain't gonna act like it's better put together than what Bright has. That's it for Super Stun for now, but there's a few more things to cover before we go to G rank. For one thing, Bright Hypnocatrice does away with the straight-on singular foot kick combo that Hypnocatrice is known for. Once again, we have a similar idea with wildly different execution. Here, Hypnocatrice will take a step backwards and hunker down in a ready stance before lunging forward with these flying spin kicks. More often than not, he will do this 3 times in a row. I have seen him go up to 4 times and also cut off after 1 kick if he thinks the combo isn't going to land. These kicks hit fast and allow him to cover a good amount of distance. He can also readjust his angle after each kick as well, making him able to track you with the combo. A word of warning if you're going to block against these kicks. This move can cross up your guard and put Bright Hypnocatrice behind you. If that happens, you want to turn as quick as you can back towards him, otherwise that next kick is going to hit you in the back. He can often use this move to punish you for falling victim to his sleep and stun attacks. Sometimes this is extremely consistent, sometimes it isn't, more on that later. Overall, it's a really cool sequence of attacks, very well animated, telegraphed clearly, and dangerous at a distance. What I also like about this and the stun dance is that they both feel very much in line with the personality that the regular Hypnocatrice established, while having their own boisterous flair. This works really well for Bright Hypnocatrice actually. With him being a Hypnoc during the mating season, it tracks that he would be more grandiose and more showy, dancing and kicking with greater gusto. And so far, I find that this has translated into a more fun fight. Let's see if G rank can keep that going, yeah? We're gonna cut right to the hardcore G rank Hypnocatrice from here on out and see what this bad boy at max power is capable of. First things first, Bright Hypnoc at this level makes an addition to his sprinting projectile attacks. He still has the moves where he will run in a straight line or in a circle while coughing up sleep-inducing projectiles left and right, like the base Hypnocatrice. Here though, he makes a slight alteration, swapping back and forth between sleep-inducing globules and pink super stun-inflicting globules. If you're in the line of fire, it's a little tough to know which status you're exactly going to get hit by. I can't say it changes the dynamic of the attack too severely, as both statuses just incapacitate you, but it's a fun and unexpected alteration to the conventional attack. It's interesting to find that Bright Hypnocatrice is not a straight-up status swap monster. Most of the moves that he takes from the base Hypnocatrice that inflicted sleep in that fight still inflict sleep here. He now blends the super stun in with some multi-hitting moves while also gaining new attacks that inflict it as well. This makes for a fairly unique subspecies design. In the older games, you mostly just got palette swap subspecies. New monsters that offered very little different from their monster of origin outside of just a color change, maybe a map alteration, maybe some minor behavioral changes and a couple of hit zone tweaks. This is what Bright Hypnocatrice was for a little while. Then, he began to manifest more of his own identity and gained a new predominant debuff. Often, when a subspecies is instead designed to deviate from its monster of origin, they simply take on a new element or a new status entirely, dropping the original monster's power of choice. There's not a ton of subspecies out there that take that original major status, keep it, play around with it, and then add a new status on top of that. It's kind of cool here. These sprinting attacks still aren't great though. If you're blocking, you're still going to get clipped in the back or on the sides by one of his ranged moves, and the forward sprint puts Bright Hypnocatrice far away from you. Too far to punish effectively if he does get a knockdown on you. This was a complaint I had about this fight design in the first Hypnocatrice video. There is one exception to the rule that Bright Hypnocatrice keeps the regular Hypnoc sleep moves as sleep moves, that being the backflip into a gas slam. This is the only attack that swaps fully from sleep to super stun. The animation and timing is all the same though. Bright Hypnoc keeps other moves like the single arcing sleep projectile, the sweeping sleep breath, and the multi-scatter shot sleep move, though I only ever saw him do that one like once or twice. Additionally, he seems to have lost the regular Hypnoc sleep-inducing Bezoar bombs and that weird clawing pecking attack. On the other hand, he seems to really like using the lunging fly forwards move a lot compared to the base Hypnocatrice, and he will employ it in close quarters semi-often. The original Hypnoc would use this move to close distance every now and again, while Bright opts to use it as a more aggressive mid-range attack, which is a neat AI tweak. The last big thing to talk about when it comes to Bright Hypnocatrice's moveset is a huge stun gas explosion. He'll signal it by spreading his wings and hopping twice. He'll look in different directions during each stomp. A pink mist will then start to build around him, and on the third beat, he'll shriek skywards and let out a huge blast of stunning gas. From there, he'll immediately go into his lunging spin kicks. I think this attack is awesome. It looks pretty sick, it's well communicated like most of his other big blast moves, and it has a dangerous guaranteed follow-up that's coded so Bright Hypnoc can punish anything in the radius of the stun, even hunters who are behind him. This is what I tend to look for in status monsters, especially those who lock you in place. As far as I'm concerned, if a debuff isn't debilitating, what's the point? However, there's some poorly designed status monsters out there that often fail to capitalize on the opportunities that they create for themselves, and just leave you lying in the dirt wasting time and preventing the fight from continuing. I am of the opinion that getting inflicted with status ailments like this should have consequences. That's how a fight can train your behavior. You get scared of the status because you know about the follow-up, so you condition yourself to defend against the status so that the follow-up doesn't hit you. That's how your battle knowledge improves. Status monsters can be really good at teaching you how to evade attacks if they're able to beat the fear of those consequences into your head. Now, I wouldn't say Bright Hypnocatrice is that dangerous, but this move does adhere to that principle. If you don't watch out for him looking back and forth, if you don't block or dodge the stun explosion, you are going to get kicked. Status attacks with scripted or near scripted repercussions are also really nice because they make the movement negation of statuses like stun, sleep, and paralysis last a lot shorter. So a move like this forces you to get better at the fight while also being less exasperating than other sleep or stun inducing moves, like say the sprinting sleep attack, where Hypnocatrice will run far away and then has to pick himself up, giving him no real ability to punish you and keeping you locked in the full sleep knockdown. The only thing I think could be really improved about Bright Hypnocatrice is I wish he was more consistent with these stun punishes. For example, his stunning stomp dance never cancels. He does all three. He then pauses to shriek after the attack. On top of that, Hypnocatrice will often squawk again to signal another upcoming attack, like his pecs or whatnot. I've had instances where I got stunned by this move, but was able to get up because Bright Hypnocatrice did 3 shrieking animations in a row and just refused to attack me in time to punish my carelessness. And I've already complained about the sprinting projectile attack enough. There are aspects of this fight that contain quick, snappy, and reactive status-oriented combat design that punishes your bad decisions. I really enjoy those parts. The instant kicks after the large gas explosion, the angle changing of said kicks, the flying lunge he can use to close distance very quickly, his ability to cancel the spin kick combo if he doesn't think he can land it. There are some really smart AI choices here. And then there's other status attacks that either can't be followed up as cleanly or some that are just more inconsistent. It makes for a fight that can honestly be really fun at times while also having some annoying bits. Now, I do need to be fair. The stun gas explosion followed up with the spin kicks was the last addition made to his toolkit. I don't know if I can rag on the guy for his fight design too much when the earlier implemented moves don't have the best status implementation, but the newer ones are where the big improvements come in. This is the sign of the developers getting progressively better at combat design as they continue to work on the game. Bright Hypnocatrice absolutely went in a better direction and improved with time, but that doesn't change the fact that the more archaic aspects of his fight design still remain, and that makes for a package that's less than perfect, even though I think there's a lot to enjoy here. I think Bright Hypnocatrice is an improvement over the original in terms of combat and design. He stands out to me as a memorably unique subspecies, one that keeps most of his progenitor's moves as is, while blending in a whole new array of attacks with a new status stacked on top and blended into some of his old tricks as well. Bright Hypnoc stands out by elaborating on the showy personality of the Hypnocatrice, bringing that aspect up into the forefront with bolder, brasher dancing and flashier, more dramatic animations. It fits insanely well with a bird wyvern that would be showing off to a potential mate. I find the design concept very clever, and the elements of the fight that lean into that personality are the most fun parts of his battle. He may sound like a status spamming train wreck, but this is Frontier. You should be learning your attack timings to dodge or to block. Once again, you're going to want to get guard +2 to deflect his sleep gas attacks. If you're going to block, Lance can absorb a ton of hits from him, but one thing I found that's really useful is that if you're fast enough, the switch axes block can be immediately followed up by a fade slash that will allow you to absorb his sprinting attack and then use the iframes to avoid the lingering effects of his status projectiles. He's also a lot more fun to iframe than the regular Hypnocatrice. The original's weird tap dancing attack is gone, and he's much less reliant on sleep mist attacks with lingering hitboxes. Bright Hypnocatrice seems to prioritize his own original moves, which, on the status end of things, mostly include large, single instance radius attacks. These are way more intuitive to dodge through. I enjoy this fight quite a bit. It has its wonky, clunky aspects to it, which are reminiscent of old wyvern design choices, but there's a lot of merit here still, especially as he gets stronger and takes on new tricks. I didn't really expect much out of a Hypnocatrice subspecies, but he ain't half bad at all, and there you have it. Bright Hypnocatrice. There aren't many Frontier original subspecies, but this is a good start, for sure. It absolutely gets much better from here, but I think this is definitely my favorite of the 3 fights we've covered in this series by a good margin. Speaking of, if you're just now tuning in and haven't seen the rest of Frontier firsthand, you can go back and check out the first episode on the base Hypnocatrice. This video really only covered what Bright adds to the table, and if you want the full picture of Frontier's Hypnocatrice, you can watch that video right here. But as for now, this has been CR-Volcanic, or Connor. I'll see you around.